me Bigfoot. Give me Bigfoot. Give me Bigfoot. Let's go out to the wild woods, far away from the neighborhoods. We're going to look for a mystery, a furry piece of history. Give me Bigfoot. Give me Bigfoot. Give me Bigfoot.
Bang, boom. There we go. All right. Professional as ever, but all. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of BOA The Revival, a very special edition, an episode that is over a year in the making. I don't have a guest tonight, folks. I have a fellow traveler. Cutchin and I are on. He's not a guest. We're just here to break down and talk about what we've just been through over the last few days, this past weekend, the much hyped, much heralded, much looked forward to Georgia Halloween Bigfoot trek. We're back from the big excursion, and we're gonna break it down and share for everybody what it was like and what we experienced out there.
And spoiler alert, it wasn't nothing, right?
No, something weird happened.
Yeah.
Something weird definitely happened.
Yeah,
So.
there were odd things in the woods. So, well.
So, to start, sort of give some background on all this. This was a Joshua Cutchin joint. This was your idea. So let's start out. How did this all happen last year in Nashville?
Well, actually, kind of the genesis for it was probably a year ago this past May. I had met up with Brandon Thomas, good guy, and so some people that he was with, and they had gotten together with Scott and Sheila Granger, who are doing Bigfoot expeditions here in North Georgia. And we had gone out to a research site, and the entire time I was talking to Scott and Sheila and getting to know them, and really getting a sense that these people are the real deal. That they've just, it comes down to this, Tim. Like, how much time at research sites does the average cryptozoologist spend?
Right.
I don't know, but Scott and Sheila have done like somewhere between like 12 and 24 of these things this year. Like that's a lot of time out in the woods. So anyway, my impression was that I enjoyed their company. We think more alike than we do differently on Bigfoot's nature. And I had a great time with them at this one research site in North Georgia. And I had the unique opportunity of hearing a car door slam in the middle of the woods. I mean, this was like 15 minutes over private property in the back end of a forest. That was public land, but like there's no way there was a car out there, right? And that was one of those things that was really tailored for me. It felt like, it felt like it was like that was
it was meant for you to understand.
Yeah, because it's like a John Keel thing. It's like a Ron Moorhead thing, like that you would hear a car door slamming on a Bigfoot outing. So anyway, great time. But the entire time, Scott and Sheila are saying, "Hey, you've got to come out and do an overnight with us sometime." So I'm like, okay, well, maybe this, that, the other. Maybe I'll actually get it together and go camping. Well, around Christmas, I ended up calling you and Steve Berg and saying, "Hey guys, people see opportunities all the time. They're like, well, I really, want to get together and do something kind of crazy, like some sort of group outing or like a boys weekend or whatever. But like nobody ever really follows through. So let's follow through on this, right? For my birthday / Christmas, I would love to have some time with y'all out there in the woods and do this." And to my shock, both you and Steve said yes. And thus began a year's worth of planning and a very invigorated group chat over the past 10 or 12 months, and that culminated in this past weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And we should address, I guess, the elephant in the room, which is and he's given us permission to sort of, I guess, spill the beans. Although I still don't really feel totally comfortable sort of being the one to break the news. But it was originally a trifecta, a trio of myself and Cutch and Steve Berg, who had to bow out, unfortunately, a week before the big excursion because he was booked. He is booked. He's currently up in Montreal taping at least one, probably 2 or 3, I think. I don't know, multiple episodes, I think is kind of what he suggested, of Ghosts, the CBS show Ghosts. So apparently he said the turnover on that is fast. So I imagine he'll be on either before the end of the year or sometime at the beginning of the year or something. But an opportunity like that, it's like, what could make someone, pass up on a Bigfoot hunt they've been building up for a year? That's it. That's an opportunity of a lifetime.
Well, and what could come up for someone? What reason could someone bow out with like a week to go that I wouldn't be genuinely upset? It's something like that, It was just bad timing,
Right. We were kind of like, no, dude, you have to do this. Like, you can't. I think I'd be more mad if he didn't. If he was like, no, I passed on the other show to go out, I'd be like, what, are you crazy? So, for the folks wondering, like, what the hell happened to Steve Berg, that's what happened. And we're all super happy for him. And we were bummed, Cutch and I, on the trip. We missed him quite a bit. But, when you lose a member of the team, you got to still keep going. We had to keep going with the excursion.
There were a couple of times when we were like, I wonder what Steve would do in this situation.
Yeah. It changed the dynamic of the situation between Cutch and I. So
it's like I said, 2 people's an argument and 3 people's a democracy, right? And so, like, there's always a chance for the third in any sort of combination to be a buffer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the good news is Tim and I are still friends, I think. But
absolutely,
there were some definite moments of tension over the course of the trip. But having known you as long as I have and feeling as comfortable around you as I do, it's just like, whenever I'd move furniture with my mom and dad, I would sort of, by default, I would look at them and say, whatever I say over the next 5 minutes, I don't mean,
Right.
And then we moved the furniture together. Once it's done, it's like, okay, that was done. I'm sorry, So sort of that vibe.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I said to you on Sunday when we got back, dude, I love you more than I had before the trip, because it's like we have this shared experience.
We trauma bonded,
Yeah, at times we did. We trauma bonded. We sort of elation bonded, and just all the feelings and everything. We shared this experience that only you and I will ever really know the full extent of. We're going to share a lot of it with folks tonight, but there's a lot there. Since the show doesn't show this show has video, so folks can kind of see here that in recognition of this expedition, this historic expedition, I actually have been growing out this beard since last Thanksgiving. So I'm kind of looking forward to shaving it off not right after the show, but certainly the next week or so, because this was sort of my homage. I think you had a word for it, Cutch. It was like some kind of tribute or like sacrifice to Bigfoot that I would grow this beard to try and become of the same mindset as the creature or something.
Yeah, there's a word for it in my thick, cold brain, because we both got a heck of a cold coming back from this. Cannot remember it, but like a penance, not really a penance,
something
but
like that.
Yeah, like a sacrament, or like a penance beard or something.
Yeah. It was like carrying a rock around like a big rock around for the whole year, like to show Bigfoot that I was going to put in the work here and respect it, and hopefully that it would return the favor in a sense. So I don't know. I mean,
it seemed to. I mean, like I don't know what worked, but something seems to have worked a little bit. Anyway, I don't want to sort of front load all those expectations, because it's not like called Bigfoot or anything. But it was. I'll just say this: like having done a lot more of the ghost hunting thing lately, and I've had those nights where you get to like hour 4 and you're just staring at the drywall and you're like, oh, I'm ready to go home. Nothing has happened. Those kind of nights. This was not that sort of experience. So anyway, let's put a pin in that. Wednesday night, a week ago tonight, I headed out and picked you up, and proceeded to my first night of insomnia, having gotten home with you and finally gotten to bed around 2 a.m. Just wired and thinking about the trip and everything we needed to do, and sort of like it was like a coming to a head of all the stuff that we talked about over the course of a year, because for the past year we've been like, okay, we need this, we need that, we need this other thing.
Right.
Because the demands of this trip, we weren't really sure where we'd be going until 3 days out, and we can't really say exactly where it was, like literally, like we signed NDAs, right?
Yeah.
But we weren't really sure where we were going, so we weren't really sure about the camping conditions that we'd be in. So it's like, I got a portable toilet, and I got a portable toilet, like called it the poop monolith, all these things. You had to think of like every possible, configuration of what we needed to have with us. I went camping the week before at Red Top Mountain, which I actually heard some interesting stuff on that trip, which maybe we can talk about. But even if we don't, that was like camping on easy mode, because we were like less than 50 yards from the bathrooms that were heated bathrooms with a shower and everything.
Oh, wow.
Which is a very stark contrast to where we ended up here, which was a place where I think we're both very glad that we got the portable toilet.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So anyway, but I say all that to say that, like, we were planning for every sort of possibility, not really knowing where we would be and what sort of proximity we would have to run out and get something. We forgot something or things like that. Like, we kind of had to like really think ahead. And so all that really came to a head on Wednesday and Thursday of last week. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Wednesday evening, it was sort of like, oh boy, can you believe it? This is like midnight. So we're like, oh boy, it's here. All right.
Yeah.
Like try to get some sleep. And I don't think either one of us really did great in that regard, because we were both so amped. And then Thursday, which is our first full day there, since we didn't have to pick Steve up at the airport, we had a lot of downtime. And I just remember initially we went to the grocery store to get any last supplies, which is like I feel like when the panic started kind of setting in, because it was like before, like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving or something. It was like, do I need this? What am I forgetting? I'm forgetting something.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to need something else on this trip. I know I'm going to need, I'm going to need something else. And yeah, go ahead, Cutchin.
Well, it was like that, but it was also like the sort of vibe of like, when even things that you've been looking forward to, you've talked about for so much, you're kind of just reached that point where you're like, let's just get it over with. Let's just do it.
Right,
like, just get it done. Like, even like, I don't know, like your wedding or something, you've planned it for a year and you're like, okay, well, let's just do it. I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of doing this. Like, let's just make it happen. So there was like, it was kind of, and the weather was really like dreary too, which didn't help.
Yeah.
So you and I were just like literally and figuratively pacing the cage.
Yeah. And I remember saying to you, we were trying to like talk on the trip, and you brought me out to this really weird little nook, this little town near where you live in Marietta, which is like a weird like throwback town that has all these artistically inclined sort of like houses and unique houses and everything. And I loved it. I still remember it, obviously, and enjoyed it quite a bit. But I remember saying to you as we were sort of driving around, I'm like, I feel like 80% of my brain right now is like running through what's going on tomorrow and this weekend. It's like I'm only functioning on like a very small percentage of my brain that can converse here and exist on Thursday.
Yeah, and it was sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario, because in some ways it was like, well, we built in this time to pick up Steve, and that would have sort of occupied our time. But on the other side of it, on the flip side of it, it's like, well, you sure as heck, I wouldn't want to come in Thursday and then go out Friday either. So you kind of needed that sort of like, all day to sort of acclimate and settle. So anyway, it was just a lot of time on our hands. Let's put it that way. And so we picked up, the last couple of things we were waiting till the last minute for, like bags of ice and whatnot. Went ahead and packed up the car as best we could, and kind of just paced and worried.
Yeah, and I got to give you like so much credit here, man. You really like took the lead on a lot of this. I mean, I was as best support as I could, but you got the dad energy now where you're like, okay, I
Yeah.
need to pack the car. You know, I'm kind of like, we'll pack the car later. I'm gonna go take a nap, and you're like, I'm going to pack the car now, dude. So,
Well,
you got the car packed up, and just sort of like you. I mean, you right away originally were like, yeah, we're gonna need a place to go to the bathroom. Like some of the stuff I never even would have considered. Where it's
yeah,
like,
well,
oh, okay,
yeah, I called Scott ahead of time. Hold on. I called Scott ahead of time. I guess I could wear the hat for Squatch Fishing Outfitters. Get hooked.
yeah. So, just so we'll plug them again here. So,
Yeah.
Squatch Fishing Outfitters, and
Yeah.
people can go on Facebook. You'll see some of the pictures of us there from the weekend. So, if after you're done listening to this, if you're like, oh shit, I want to do this, you go on their Facebook, Squatch Fishing Outfitters, and they'll be releasing a schedule like at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And you can get in on one of these if you want. So yeah.
So yeah, I was just trying to, and we'd made sure because we had obviously some of our plans changed a little bit when Steve had to duck out. We ended up deciding to not sleep in separate tents. We slept in one gigantic tent because I had to have a gigantic tent.
Mhm.
So, it was nice to, and like I said, I'd done sort of the dry run of that with my family, and it was like, okay, I at least can make it through 36 hours. And at the end of the day, like you can push through a lot of things for 36 hours,
Yeah.
Like even if we didn't bring any food, it wouldn't be great, right? It'll be kind of miserable, but like we would survive 36 hours without food.
Yeah. We were kind of like, yeah, I mean, look, we could have always gotten into our car and gone home if we wanted. We were never like,
Right,
we weren't
right.
like stranded per se.
Right.
We were voluntarily in the woods. So it wasn't like, it wasn't like our car broke down and we were like, oh no, what are we going to do? It was like, no, we can leave if we absolutely have to, but
yeah, again, I'm sort of my perspective is a little bit weird because I had just done camping on easy mode, as I said, so like it felt like we were pretty isolated. And and in the long run, I guess we kind of were, but at the same time, it wasn't like you read the stories about some of these people who like go schlepping with backpacks 20 miles into the woods to go do this sort of thing. It was not like that at all. Yeah.
No. So yeah, that was Thursday. So we were like really amped up. I remember we were like telling your wife Sarah, we're like, we're sorry, we can't, we just need to go. We're like so antsy to go. So Friday rolls around, and we head out to the campsite.
Yep.
As you said, we signed NDA, so we can't really say too much about that.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't even say where we stopped for lunch, other than that we did stop for lunch.
Yes, we did stop for lunch, and
about halfway.
Yeah, and got some Brunswick stew, which I had been hyping up for like 6 years since I saw Cutch in Atlanta last time.
Yeah, because you got that on the way back from New Orleans. That's when we did that. Yeah. So it has been 7 years. That's crazy. You've got a good stew memory.
I do have a good stew memory. Yeah. So we arrive at the thing. We set up the tent. We meet the crew of people who were there. There was approximately, let's say, like 15 people. We're not gonna, part of the. I mean, I'm sure we bonded with almost all of them, so I'm sure like they wouldn't be mad, but we don't have time to even go over all the folks. But they were all really cool. Go ahead, Kutch.
I was just gonna say, well, that like I don't know, like I don't know if everybody always wants to be outed on going on,
right? Exactly.
But everybody was really kind and was good to be around.
Yeah, all interesting folks. Many of the folks who knew Scott and Sheila and had done it before, so that added a little bit of like I don't know. You can answer this in a moment, Kutch, but it's like Kutch did go camping the weekend before, but prior to that, I don't think he was much of a camper. And folks, I had not camped in 18 years. 18 years when I was a lot younger and more spry. So
yeah, I'm gonna confess. Prior to the week before I went out with you, I had not camped ever.
Yeah.
So obviously I'd done, as much homework as I could, but there's still some tricks here and there that you sort of learn about. And I'm so grateful that I actually like did that dry run at Red Top Mountain with my family.
Oh, for sure.
Because it would
I
have
am
been,
too.
I mean, just getting another rep of putting together the tent under your belt and like little things that you wouldn't think about knowing or think about like needing or whatnot. So yeah, it was. I look forward to doing more of it because I really do enjoy it. There were some logistical things that I'd sort of been waiting on. The reason I hadn't done is because there were some logistical things that I needed to figure out before I could go camping. And then over the past couple of years, I've been working on it. And long story short, I need a battery for my CPAP. And that technology has not really been where it needed to be until like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And so now that is, it's like, well, I can do this now. I can sleep without, I can sleep without a power outlet next to my head. So, yeah, it was nice to do that. And I feel kind of like, I did the accelerated learners course. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So Cutch, thankfully, and of course, I was like before the thing, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get a tent and I'll set it up one of these weekends. Before I didn't end up doing any of that stuff. And folks, like I am, this did feel in a way like a reality show or something where it was like, let's take Binnall, who is a couch potato, work from home dude who probably, like, if you looked at my step count on a normal day, is like a flat line because I'm just sitting at my desk writing all day. And it's like, let's just throw him in the most extremely unsettling conditions for someone who just loves to lie on the couch and watch TV and read their iPad. It was like, let's just throw him in and see what happens. So that was sort of the mood in a way for me, where it was like, what the fuck? What have I gotten myself into? Like, what have I gotten myself into?
And again, I'm gonna I'm gonna take the reins and sort of speak around this as best as I can. But like that was sort of a similar feeling going into camp. Again, I don't want to act like we were hacking through the Amazon or anything. But
right.
It was in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And it was not. It was fine. It was clear enough to get to, but it was not like a place. It wasn't a place you would stumble upon. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And not a lot of guardrails on the final stretch there. And definitely the kind of place where you definitely felt like you were away from a lot of people. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So we pulled up to camp after we went about 30 minutes past our exit. Then we figured out our directions and came back. Found the turnoff and went to where we were headed. And then I think we were like, there had been 1 or 2 tents that were there the night before. But we were pretty early in the grand scheme of things. So we rolled in and got a tent towards the back, where there had been some activity on previous nights. Later that evening, my good friend Kelly Lockman rolled in.
Yes.
With our new good friend Mike Lynch, and they were their own form of lifesavers throughout this trip. We'll get to that later. But they were our next door neighbors, and so we all got settled in and started feeling out what the heck this is all about. Like, what have we gotten ourselves into? And me introducing Tim to the Grangers and just sort of getting all the housekeeping stuff done. We have our little poop monolith in the back, and getting our beds, our sleeping pads, and our sleeping bags all set out and all that stuff.
Yeah. So yeah. That was like, I think that was kind of like the first time, in a sense, we were like, let's see if we can throw it up here. There's the tent. Yeah, that was like the first time we were like, okay, this is it. This is where you're going to be living for the next couple of days. And that was kind of like, all right, I think I can do this,
Yeah.
And it's like, I likened it to it, just unless you're like a fancy lad, there ain't no art on the walls on the inside of that tent. It kind of messed with my mind a little bit. Like I told you, but later I'm like, I feel like I'm in a boat. I feel like I'm in like a space capsule.
Yeah, you made the reference to like being on a lifeboat a couple of times or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like everything's like sterile. It was like being in like maybe a medical room, like an alien abduction almost. That's kind of like what I imagine it's like.
Yeah, yeah.
You go in and you're in this cavernous space that's like really empty and cold, both literally and figuratively, and sort of like sterile. And it's like, oh, this is weird, man.
Well, in hindsight, like it's possible that maybe we should have opened up the windows, but it's not like we were hanging out in there, So when we were in there, it was sleep time, and that also meant that we kind of didn't want to open up a bunch of. We'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, so we got all moved in. Everything settled. I had learned some personal tips and strategies for myself on my last camping trip, and we're sort of getting settled in and meeting everyone and trying to figure out our expectations. And then I can't remember when we went out that first night after everyone was there. It must have been like 8 or 9, right?
8 or 9. Now, in the notes that you sent back, I was trying to place where this was. You have the Oz effect.
Well, yeah. So we went. So to be clear about the way this works, which I presume is similar to other outings that they do. There's a camp, and stuff happens at camp. Sometimes, arguably, the most interesting stuff happens at camp. But you also go to sort of sitting locations of various other distances, where you build a fire, and if you want to sit by the fire, that's cool. Stuff happens at the fire too. If you want to hike into the woods at night, you can do that too. So a contingent will go out and off and deeper into the woods. And I've done this sort of thing, gosh, between Tim Renner and the time that I went out with Kelly and the time that I went out earlier with Scott and Sheila. I mean, probably 7 or 8 times, and by that time, like just being in the woods at night, which, is the first couple times you do it, you're like, oh, this is really freaking scary. But then I know it sounds so trite, but you realize that the woods at night are just like the woods in daytime, but dark.
Yeah.
Which is kind of dumb to say, but it gives you a better sense of what the space is, So I was like, yeah, let's totally go hiking back there. Now that first night was very quiet, but that kind of was part of what made it interesting, is because
eerily quiet.
It was kind of like full on Oz effect, right? It was like, not only were there no crickets or small mammals, like squirrels and mice and stuff rattling leaves, there's plenty of leaves on the ground. There wasn't any wind. There wasn't any airplanes. It was just dead, like DED dead. So we went out, we hiked deep into this one side of theirs towards sort of the end of the trail. I can't even begin to estimate how long it was. I think Scott told us, but I can't remember.
I think he said it was a half mile. So we were about a half mile into the woods.
And luckily, everywhere we went was on ridgeline, so it wasn't too terribly exhausting. But went in, didn't really notice anything. Turned around on the way back. Mike said that he saw a light, an anomalous light. We all heard. And again, just so everybody knows, Tim's mileage of the auditory things might vary from mine, right?
I have I'm just not a good. I don't want to say I'm not a good listener, because I am a good listener in that sense.
Well,
it's I'm not. I don't know. I have a weird. I can't really. Yeah, I'm just kind of. First of all, it's just that. I can't. I don't know how that's sharp in here. I guess on that kind.
Well, I guess I was thinking about this. I guess I was thinking about this earlier today too. Why some of the auditory stuff impressed me. And granted, what we heard that first night wasn't the thing. My real takeaway. My real sound takeaway. But part of the reason I think that it did impress me is, do you remember back in I don't know, the late 90s or so, you would do if you had a PC, you would do themes for your desk, for your window, for Windows.
Yeah.
Different wallpaper, different icons, different sounds and stuff. Well, I was doing these customized themes for my desktop, and I would switch it out. And one of the my parents and my sister probably remember this. One of the themes that I made, one of the desktop themes that I made, was a Bigfoot theme.
Oh, nice.
And it was a Bigfoot wallpaper and Bigfoot icons, right? But it was also all the sounds, like closing an application or closing a window or maximizing a window, or the startup and shutdown sounds. They were all Bigfoot recordings, right?
Nice.
So like a lot of these like purported Bigfoot recordings, these Bigfoot field recordings with vocalizations and stuff, they kind of live rent free in my head. So they're things they're
Okay.
things I am more familiar with. Yeah, I was thinking about that today. Like, why did this sort of some of this other stuff impress me? And I think that's part of it is because I was like, oh no, that's pretty much like what I heard. That first night, however, was not that. There was a sound that came across from the other side of the holler that was I've said a couple of times if it had been closer and quieter I would have been like that's just an owl because it was that like quarter note half note sort of like hoo kind of thing and it had a hoo kind of cadence. It was very owlish. It was, according to some of the seasoned members that we had, something that they'd heard before that might possibly be attributable to Bigfoot.
Right.
But that's sort of where that first night left us because we came back to the campfire, and then that's when we heard the other interesting thing that night.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I was just to sort of we'll get to this when we get to sort of the bigger event that happened to us later. But yeah, what are the problems? It's hard to verbalize. What are the problems I have with sound? No, it's just that like sound is like it's like you hear it, but you can't like get it back. So it's kind of like if you hear a sound, you're like you can't unless you're anticipating a sound.
Yeah, and I'm like I
mean,
live in sound world too.
sound,
You know,
yeah,
I'm a musician, and like apparently I haven't completely killed my hearing, you know, in terms of being able to hear stuff. So,
and I want to mention also, just because, like I said to Cutch, I want to get a lot of this down on the record, even if it's I'm not entertaining to just hear him and I. But yes, I was lamp shamed at one point because my lamp was so good.
It was good. It was really good.
My headlamp was so good that everyone's like, "Bro, the headlamp." I'm like, I was told I needed a headlamp.
It was great. It was great, but you know, like, someone would ask you a question and you'd be like, "What?" and it would just blind us out.
Yeah. But the good thing is, and I noticed this both nights, was slowly but surely everyone just shut off their lights for the most part because the moon, I don't know, it's like a 3/4 moon or something. It wasn't a full moon, but it was like 3/4 moon.
Yeah.
Was so bright that you didn't need once your eyes adjusted, you really didn't need a headlamp per se.
It was one of those it was one of those moonlit nights where you were actually getting like some pretty clear shadows on the ground. You know, you would hold up your hand and you'd see a pretty clear shadow. It was building up to tonight. It was building up to the beaver moon.
Oh,
okay. Tonight's the beaver moon. Yeah, it's apparently when the fur trappers and the Native Americans said that the beavers like to build their dams. It was kind of like the start of like the beaver season or something. But anyway, a really big bright moon in November apparently is the beaver moon. So maybe
okay. So then we hear we go back to the fire, which is at the camp, not the actual camp, but so the sub camp, right?
Yeah.
Where some of the folks hung back and
hanging out, talking, still getting to know everybody, you know.
Yeah. Apparently stuff happens there, like when the other people are out on the trail. And so we're hearing this like ruckus way off in the woods. We're hearing like this crazy sort of ruckus. And so everyone kind of stopped. I was like, shh, you know, stop.
I mean, quite the ruckus. Like, animal noises, panicky, angry, snarly, like wild animal noises.
Right. So, Scott Granger, who's a far more seasoned outdoorsman than you and I ever could be probably at this point in our lives. He said that it was that apparently it was coon dogs that had caught a bear.
Yeah, he said they cornered a bear, and some of the other folks had sort of listened to, and they'd heard some of the bear vocalizations as well, because it did become apparent that, like, you know, we are dealing with a dog here.
It definitely sounded like dogs. Yeah. It was like, why would all these dogs be going crazy? And he was like, they got a bear. And it was like, oh shit.
Yeah, and the fact that it was close enough to be able to hear that, you know, to hear the sort of growls and the sort of sound that a bear makes.
Yeah.
I didn't hear it because we were all sort of being chatterboxes, and in hindsight, I kind of wish I had listened a little bit more closely.
Same.
But you know, we were close enough to hear that, and you know, that's the thing about Scott, is that he could very easily take folks up there who had spent, you know, their entire lives in cities and been like, every sound is Bigfoot. You know, he could totally totally do that for people. But no, he's very clear about when you hear something. No, this is this, and no, that's that. So he was sort of listened to the whole audio drama with a couple of other people. Lasted for about 10 minutes, I feel like.
It
That was
went
a
on
long
for a
time.
while. Yeah, it went on for a while, and then so then it was one of those like, oh wow, okay, now there's another one of those moments where you're like, okay, this is legit, you know,
I
because
mean,
we
yeah,
go
yeah.
out about, we go out, we walk, we go back towards where we were earlier.
Well, yeah, well,
We only, but
so
we, yeah, we only go about we only go about 100 feet or whatever. We only go like maybe,
well,
you know,
the
yeah,
whole kerfuffle had ended with a snarl, a pop, and a whimper, you know.
right.
And so we go back out towards in the direction that we were going to go, because there was some talk of us going back out again. But Scott, rightly so, said like, look, there's a pretty good chance that this bear is the one who made it out of that altercation alive. But if it did, it's pretty clear that it was, you know, it's torn up, or it's at the very least is angry. And it was on the other side of this ridge, and in between that ridge is a creek, which we saw the next day. And that's a thoroughfare, you know, for animals. It's like that's where this thing will go. It is going to be going back into this ravine, you know, to escape. Probably not a great idea to go back out there. So it's like, oh yeah, this is why we have you around, because I would have just walked back out there like an idiot, you know.
Yeah, I totally could have seen, yeah, you and I being like, well, let's get back out there. Let's do another round. And then it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
yeah.
is that a Bigfoot coming through? And next thing you know, we'd be encountering an injured and angry bear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was, yeah.
So we packed it in that night, and honestly, that was kind of the last Bigfooty kind of thing that happened that night.
That night, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We stayed up talking. I think we closed down the camp with Kelly and Mike that night, and just sort of talking through stuff, because I'd known Kelly because I was in his documentary, and you know, we'd hung out and done similar things. It was a good night of camaraderie. But about 1:30 or 2, we're like, let's go ahead and pack it in. But it was one of those. Yeah. But in hindsight, a big part of the reason that we were staying up so much was that we didn't want to go to sleep, because whenever you go back to the tent to get something, I compared it to this later. It was like going into outer space, where you feel like you're losing the light of the sun. Everything's getting darker and colder, and it's like, oh, this is kind of miserable over here.
Right. And then you enter that chamber, and you enter that empty nightmare chamber. Yeah. So it's like, but then
and miserable it was. And miserable
it was. This was the, I later said to Cutch, like, this was like a shock to the system. This experience was, but it really, the shock part peaked here on Friday night.
This is definitely the low point of our time together on this trip.
Right.
And maybe like one of the low points in our 10-year relationship, Tim, was Friday night, because you know, well, let's go ahead and get into it. Since you're the one whom it affected the most, or
yeah. Well, since it was just insanely cold, folks. It was like insanely cold. The nadir of it all was feels like temperature, or the wind starts whipping up like crazy, right? The wind starts whipping up, and it's like 30 degrees, and the feels like temperature gets down to 27 degrees. And well, prior to that, before we go to bed, we kind of like you were saying, I think we were both kind of like, I don't know, I don't even want to, like, how this is like, we're supposed to go to sleep like that.
Well, that's right. Yeah. And then this is where then Mike really, and you know, Kelly came in and saved our bacon. I think it was Kelly's property, but Mike was the one who'd done all the research. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And they were like, we got 2 little space heaters. You can have one, and it's a propane space heater, and you just run it in the tent. And then I was like, there's no fucking way we're running this in the tent, because we'll die. We'll die of like carbon monoxide or whatever. And they're like, no. And maybe people in the chat, maybe someone in the chat can clarify this. Mike, I know you're in the chat, so you already have a vote. But yeah, it's
we already know your opinion, Mike.
Yeah, but it was like, no, you're fine, because the tent has the whole top of the tent is like an opening, but it's like we covered the fucking opening with a rain tarp. So
yeah,
so we were like, look, and I even said to Cutch, I'm like, look, dude, like, I don't mind dying on a Bigfoot hunt. I've said that many times over the course of the year, getting ready for it. I'm like, hey, if I die on this, that could actually be kind of like great sort of exclamation point at the end of a very strange life. So I wouldn't really necessarily have minded if I died. But I could not die of carbon monoxide. I did not want to go down as one of the two idiot Bigfoot hunters
Right.
who asphyxiated themselves on the first night of an expedition because they didn't realize you can't run a heater in a tent. So I'm like, let's just run it like crazy and get it the fuck out of there and open the windows and then roll them up and then like
and it did knock off the chill nicely.
Right.
To be clear, like I've learned some things about bedding and my preferences since that night. For whatever reason, this is so dumb, but when I was camping with my family, I had not slept in the sleeping bag. I like unzip the sleeping bag and use it as a blanket because I like to cock my leg while I'm sleeping, and I was afraid I wouldn't have enough room to cock it. And so I did that night too, and so it was always like battling with the covers and trying to get enough beneath me so that I was warm. And like it was just, I slept the second night in the sleeping bag, and it was like an 80% better experience. So I'm just dumb in that regard. So I'd set myself up for failure with that too. The heater helped a bit, but it did not help entirely.
No, because eventually the cold came back, and
and we were paranoid enough that we wanted to sort of, after we turned it off, we wanted to sort of keep the window, a little bit of ventilation, just in case there was some buildup. That anyway. So
yeah. I mean, I haven't even looked it up on the internet since we got back, whether or not that was that we like. But I could not, in good conscience, for us to go to bed with that thing running in the tent. Like, I wasn't ready to roll the dice on that kind of insanity, no matter how cold it was. So. I woke up like at 4 or 5 in the morning, so I probably got like 3 hours of sleep.
I mean, this was like a miniature Dark Night of the Soul kind of like trajectory for me. Like that was tossing, turning, freezing. As I've said before, I sleep with a CPAP. So part of the problem is CPAPs have heated tubes and humidifiers and stuff, but if you use that with a battery, you're going to get like 4 hours out of it, as opposed to like possibly 2 or 3 nights, So I turn all that off, which is fine. I'm used to sleeping with that, but it also means that you've got your condensation blowing into a mask with cold air. So you end up getting this like little ecosystem of like where you get wet raindrops on your nose, and it's just freaking miserable because that's waking you up. And I'm starting to learn that I don't sleep well the first night I go camping anyway. And you had said that to me actually on Wednesday night. You were like, I don't really sleep well the first night in a strange place. So like, it's like, okay, a lot of things were stacked against us, but the cold just compounded it. So you woke up around 4:30 or 5. Is that right?
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah, and this was like just a baptism of ice by Mother Nature. And it was like, you fucking asshole computer writer guy who hasn't cancer. You think you can just fucking come out here and just fucking throw up a tent and think you're gonna be, just fine. Well, here's what I have in store for you. And the wind's whipping and it's 27 degrees. I later told the guys, I was like, and folks, obviously you can tell from watching the show, I'm a smoker. Right when I wake up right away, I'm like, all right, I got to smoke. But it's like, if I wasn't rooming or tenting with Cutch, I would have been like at the window, like smoking. But I'm like, I couldn't. I have more class than that to do that to poor Cutch. So I'm like, well, it would be a great way to quit smoking, I guess. I'm like, either brave the elements and go out there in 27 degrees just to have a smoke in the wind, or I just tough it out. So I'm just like, I'll wait till the sun comes up and everything.
Why didn't either of us break out the hot hands that night?
I think because I was still a hot hand skeptic. I was like, what the fuck good are those? So it wasn't until the next day that I was like, I'm like, how could this little tiny thing bring me any relief? Well, it could have. I should have busted that up. But I think at that point I was like, I really like kind of had like a fucking meltdown. I mean, I'll really admit it. I was like, because part of me was kind of kicking my own ass because we had spent a whole year planning this out. And it was like, I thought we had everything. I thought this was going to be all right. And then it was like, I had long johns and extra layers and all that shit. So it wasn't like I was out there, in shorts and a tank top. But it was like, I just was not ready for this.
Neither of us grasped it. Yeah. So anyway, so you woke up around 4:30 or 5, and that led to like the phrase of the weekend that I want to have on a t-shirt. Like it's
I want it on my
your tombstone. Yeah. So like and anybody who knows like me, I don't sleep well with my wife because like I'm constantly afraid of like how I'm waking her up. You know, I'm always really conscientious of the other people, the person I'm sleeping with. So I'm hearing Tim toss and turn. I'm like, at this point, I'm like, oh, he's absolutely miserable, and I've drug him on this sort of into the situation. And that's about the time that like we say something. You know that I'm awake at this point. Like I've said something to you.
A little bit. Yeah. And then at that point I'm like, well, I think the sun's up enough. It's not as cold. And I'm just like, I turn to Cutchin and I say something to the effect of, I've just about had enough of this fucking misadventure. And then I storm out of the fucking tent. Storm out of the tent and to have that smoke that I've been waiting 2 hours for. And really, like I wasn't mad at Cutch. I wasn't mad at anyone really.
No, but like
mad at myself. Like I said, I was kicking myself where I'm like.
As I said to you, Tim, if I was specifically in Massachusetts to visit you, and we were in your backyard, and a tornado came up and a tree fell on my legs, and I lost control of my legs for the rest of my life, that's not your fault, right? It's not your fault. Right. But like, you would still apologize to me because you'd be like, well, if it wasn't for me, he wouldn't have even been in this situation. So that's where I was. I was like, oh man, this has been a failure of a birthday present, failure of a Christmas present, because all I'm doing is like making my relationship with a friend of mine worse. Oh, no. You know, that's the only thing I'm accomplishing. So I was like, I honestly had the worst anxiety attacks that I've had in about 6 years, 5 or 6 years. Just laying there in bed and being like, oh, this is all just a disaster. It's just misery, you know. So
yeah, but fortunately, in sort of like a lesson we could take from the weekend and bring into life, in a sense, it was like things got better. The temperature started to get better. The sun came up. The sun comes up. It'll come up tomorrow morning too, folks. No matter how tough a day you're having right now, the sun will come up tomorrow, like the song says. And the sun came up. The heat, the temperature rose eventually up to like a 55 degrees.
Yeah, I got a fire going. I got a
fire going. He was amazing because I was just like, my mind was scrambled. I couldn't really do much of anything. But he just sprung into action, and other folks started getting up and sort of, and Scott kind of busted my balls because there was some other guys from Massachusetts there. One of them was running around in shorts and a t-shirt. God bless him. And Scott's like, I thought you were from New England or something like that. I'm just like, I'm dying, Scott. I'm dying. This is a nightmare. But it like I said, you can take that lesson out of it though. Like Cutch was saying, you can endure anything. And that was like, like within a few hours, it was like, all right, let's get after it.
And maybe I should sort of circle back to this. Scott and Sheila had given us a great cookout meal the night before with
absolutely
hot dogs and hamburgers, and they made breakfast the next morning, so that was something to look forward to. Sheila makes maybe some of the best grits I've ever had. They're amazing. So it was all like, okay, we can, as I said before, you can power through just about anything for 36 hours. So like, it was one of those things where you're like, okay, I'd rather be awake than asleep right now, even though I'm tired. So
and I think also, and I think what kind of like screwed my head a little bit too was it was like kind of like being at home. It's like, all right, well, I woke up or whatever, I'll just roll over and go back to sleep. But it's like you can't fall back asleep, and that starts driving you more and more crazy. It's like, oh man, I can't fall asleep. It's too goddamn cold, and the wind, and the and it's like you start spiraling. So, but anyway, it all reversed, and we had a wonderful breakfast, and then we went out back to where we had been the night before to do a second walkthrough of the area, so we could both see it in the daylight and also, look for possible Bigfoot activity.
And by this point, you'd discovered the majesty that is hot hands.
Yes.
I mean, I knew that they'd work because my dad had used them hunting, and I think my sister and I had used them in marching band competitions and stuff from time to time. So I remember they work. I should remember how well they worked.
Yeah. Well, I have to give a shout out to Brooke Moreland, who was on the show a few months ago, and I asked her about this upcoming trip, and she was like, "Hot hands? You want to bring hot hands?" And I'm like, "Really?" And as I said, I was a skeptic, but I'm like, "Well, I'll bring him." And and they were fantastic. I don't know what the hell they're terrifying in a way, because it's like, what am I holding? This is like radioactive or something? Because it's like you start rubbing them together, and after like a half hour, they get like real warm. Then they stay and they get like hotter and hotter and hotter for like 12 hours. They stay hot. They're fantastic. Hot hands.
Yeah, that's what surprised me. Like early Sunday morning was like, oh, these hot hands in my hoodie are still warm. But anyway, yeah. So we went back out to where we had been the night before. Saw some interesting. Again, your mileage may vary on stick structures, but some of them were really interesting. You know, it's one thing to get 2 or 3 sticks sort of falling together, but it's another one to get like sort of like what like that.
Here's the one. Yeah. I didn't take great pictures of the stick structures myself. Cutch got a few. He sent it to me, but I was like, I just put, this was the most interesting one that we saw out on the trail.
And you know, could be a person, but could be whatever it is. I don't think that those fell that way, right? Like it had to be something with hands,
right?
You know?
Right. That doesn't rule out possibly that a person did it either. You know what I mean? Like this teenagers will do that shit. Oh my god,
that's true.
You know.
That's true.
All right, so we go. I got to keep this on the view here, because then we went down to the creek.
Yeah, and it was one of those walks where you're like, oh, this is beautiful, but the entire time down, I'm like, we've got to come back up.
Right. Yeah. So,
but that is the creek that the bear presumably fled to the night before.
On the other side. Yeah. He would have gone across this way here. You can't see my mouse, but he would have gone across that way and then run across over the river. But what struck me, I just want to put this back up here. This is kind of where, you know, this was like my Mothman when we went to Point Pleasant and we saw, we went to the TNT things where Mothman was. This was kind of my Point Pleasant moment in a way, where I'm like, well, look, if Bigfoot fucking is in these woods, he has to come down. This is a Bigfoot area. And I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to see Bigfoot, but it's like, I'm in where a Bigfoot presumably would be if Bigfoot is here. So it was like, I could briefly get into the mind, in a sense, of Bigfoot. I could be like, okay, I can kind of put myself in the position of this creature. If it lives in these woods, like this is where it would be. And I'm looking around, and you can kind of really get a sense of, you know, what its territory might be like. So that was really interesting to me.
Yeah, and to that extent, you know, we sort of we clawed our way back out of that valley. Got to the top, and then, you know, I was stubborn enough that I went on a little breakaway from the breakaway up to the ridge to see, just to go up there, see possibly another stick structure. But just went up there. And then on the way down, I almost killed Kelly. That was fun.
Yeah.
That was an exciting moment. So yeah, I was steadying myself on some of the smaller trees.
Oh no, that's not it. There you go.
I was steadying myself on some of the smaller trees, and I sort of put my hand against one, and the moment I did, I heard, and it was a dead tree just waiting to come down. And
it was a big one.
Yeah.
Kelly was ahead of me, and, it was like the other way. It was like the closest. How do I do that? There you go. That one. That one that's not that actual tree, but it was about that thick around. It was like,
even dead would have been enough to probably give Kelly a concussion if it had hit him. But I was like, go. So it grazed his hand. But and this was, I guess we didn't really talk about that, and maybe we shouldn't, because we'll sort of give away where it is. But you know, Kelly had some insights about some of the places that we went to because he was familiar with this area.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of fun to have him along for that. But yeah, I almost killed my friend Kelly Lockman, unfortunately. But fortunately, he did not die. So that's good.
No. And I had a picture, but I just suck at pictures, and my camera's like 6 years old. But there was one, talking about the street structures and stuff, there was one really interesting thing that was like there was like a stripped tree, and then in front, its bark was like draped over another tree, where it's like something had to strip this bark almost like in one fell swoop, and then like draped it over another tree. And it was like, that's really interesting. You know, that's really weird.
I don't know if I grabbed that or not. Let's see here.
I mean,
No,
I took a bunch of pictures of it, but none of them really. I would look at it later, and I'm like, that doesn't capture the thing.
Oh yeah, I don't think I ever showed you this though. This was the tree. This was the structure at the top of that ridge that I went to. If it'll, oh, hold on.
Pull it back.
Here we go.
Man, it's hard to do.
Yeah, let's do it. I've got the fuzz. Hold on, I'll defuzz it for a second. There we go.
There you go. Okay,
So
I can see that.
Odd, right? Odd.
Yeah. There were a lot of odd. There were definitely, and I'm not a huge stick structure guy myself, but there were definitely, when you see them in person, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
There was some that were like a tree that was down and it was like threaded between all these different trees. And it was like, wow, what are the odds that like some tree fell and like went like that, what's that, Price is Right game, the Plinko.
Yeah.
It was like it plinkoed in between all these things. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, and whenever I take a picture of the woods, like they're beautiful, and then I look at it, the photo, and it's like, well, I have no depth perception anymore, so it just looks like a sort of a mosaic. It doesn't really, you really have to have that sort of depth perception to really appreciate it, I think.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
So anyway, I think like we had a lot of nervous energy on Saturday, partially because I think we were trying to stay awake and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I think that walk took it out of us because we came back and we started doing the potluck. My wife had prepared some lovely food for us to take.
It was fantastic.
all the food was great. All the food agreed with me, but it made parts of me very loud. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. I probably had some like 30-second farts. Like it was not. I'm not joking because I was just holding it in because you're going single file through the woods that night, and it's like I can't.
Yeah.
And poor Mike, I think he got one of them. But anyway, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So we had the potluck. It was great. We're all sort of relaxing and hanging out by the fire.
We had trivia, which was a lot of fun. Trivia was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think, that was that.
How I got my hat?
Yeah.
Yep.
Touch got his hat. Let me see. I got a picture here. I got the, that's not it. Where is it? There it is. I got the Bigfoot soap wiener cleaner, which I really wanted because I was like, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. It's sitting in here in the office now on my trophy case.
What did your mom say about that?
She didn't get it, so I don't know. I don't know how to interpret that. But yeah, she was just like, "What? That's weird. That's crazy." So I'm like, "No," and then I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not going to go any further really explaining the joke." But yeah, so trivia was like so much fun, and it was really cool. I feel like the trivia. And Sheila, we had watched another podcast where Sheila and Scott were on. We watched that on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And Sheila perfectly captured our entire experience because she was like, "Yeah, you see the folks, they come on Friday, and they're kind of like, oh, what have I gotten myself into?" Which is exactly what happened with me. And she's like, and then by Saturday, everyone's laughing, having a good time, and the groups kind of like really come together. And it was like, that's exactly what happened. The potluck, and then the trivia. And by then, everybody, all their names, and it's like you can and you're starting to find out more of their background. You're learning about them and everything. And it was like, oh, you're really coming together. And I'm not going to get into I'm not even going to get into any too many detail. But if you ever want a fun thing, folks, all these folks come from different backgrounds. And it was like, what's the weirdest thing you've had happen on your job? And then you hear some of the really interesting stories from their line of work, and it's a fun sort of icebreaker. Or where would you like to travel back to in time? So I had conversations like that with a lot of the folks and really got to know them and came to appreciate them.
And it was the kind of thing, too, where, this is going to sound like a backhanded compliment, but like, it wasn't, nothing about this weekend was really easy,
No.
From the moving about to the cold to the setup and breakdown to pooping in what is a glorified bucket and digging a hole for that, all this stuff all this stuff is not necessarily easy, but like at the same time, like here I sit still sore with a cold probably from this past weekend, and I'm like, oh, I really want to go back. Like I've got this
Yeah.
nostalgia about it already. Like, that spot, I've got some nostalgia about that spot.
Yeah.
And the company only sort of magnified it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And so then, then it's time to go back out.
Well, and I think it was before we went back out that I heard something, and I was like, oh, that's it.
No, that wasn't the big moment.
No, it wasn't the big moment, but I heard some stuff.
Okay.
Because and again, this is why I'm saying, like, I think that I put more of an emphasis on this than you, but like I'm really familiar with these types of sounds. And it was that coming across from the other mountain, this whoop, and then howling and stuff after that.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, and Scott was very clear. He's like, that's why you're out here. And again, I make it, he would say that was one of them, and now it's coyotes. And then you'd hear something,
right.
And you'd hear something 5 minutes later, and I'd be like, what was that? And he'd be like, that was an owl. Don't worry about it.
Right.
But over the course of, I don't know, 6-ish, because we went out at 7 that night, so probably from about 6-ish all the way through when we got back about 9-ish or so. I heard those vocalizations. There's a howl on the BFRO website called the Florida Howl that was a lot alike. But I heard that stuff. We all heard that stuff.
Yeah, but there were sounds. Yeah.
And it didn't sound like anything that I think should be out there. And it was nice to sort of have Scott there also being like, yeah, that's what that is. That's what you think it is. And
go ahead.
well, I'm just saying that's just something that, like, I've been sitting with that realization, because I know you want to get to the other thing, but like this is really important for me too. Like
I had another point.
Like this already put me in kind of like Class B sighting category for BFRO, which is like anything up to seeing Bigfoot is a Class B sighting. You see Bigfoot, that's Class A, but like if you hear Bigfoot or you find a footprint or you get something thrown at you or you smell something, like those are all Class B things. So like I was like, oh, I'm kind of in Class B territory. Like I think that, and I've said this to a couple people since then, I am convinced that, obviously we don't have a video of Bigfoot making that sound right necessarily,
right.
But I'm convinced that if these things are out there like this, that I've heard them. Like I think that's what those were. It's this phenomenon. And I say that based off of what Scott and Sheila said, my own gut instinct, and also, what I'd heard way back when after listening to these time and time again. And that's that's a thing that you don't get every time. I mean, we could have very well, Tim, gone out there and nothing at all could have happened. Right.
Like they don't guarantee anything. That's on the big.
Well, right. But having suffered through, and I say this with all the love for my team, because I love those folks and I've had some interesting things happen, but like having suffered through a lot of very mundane, residential paranormal house calls, where literally nothing does happen. Sometimes interesting stuff happens, and I've caught some good EVPs, all that stuff, right? But like a lot of times you go out there and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And then for me to get like, again, 7 or 8 different moments where there was something that Scott would identify as being Bigfoot. That's a thing that, I'm going to carry with me for a long time. A really long time.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that was just like, I think we just heard 1 or maybe 2 of those, and then we were off for the second location. Yeah.
No. That happened. Maybe you're right. No, I don't. No, that happened after the second location expedition.
Yeah.
I'm sure of that. When we were on the second expedition, which was much flatter, thankfully, than. Although the first night wasn't even that bad either. It was the daytime one that I was like, holy shit, I'm going to die. And I'm like, pulled something in my back, like going up the hill. So, I thought you froze there for a minute. No. So what I noticed on the second expedition, and it kind of goes to what I was saying earlier about sort of like how the group came together. It was like everything just seemed way more disciplined. It was like
there was a lot less chatter.
There was less chatter. The first night there was like some more nervous chatter. It was a little bit more like the gang who shouldn't shoot straight. Then the second night it was like everybody was focused and on point,
Well, and
like that we were gonna, like stay in a single line, do this, do that, not talk unless something's,
yeah,
pause.
well,
We had sort of hand signals that were like, all right, everybody stop.
yeah.
Cutch very smartly was like, all right, I'm gonna hold this up. If we hear something here at the front, and you guys, everybody
Stop where
fall
you
back,
are
and,
so that we can
right,
actually
right.
hear it, as opposed to waiting, another 10
It was
seconds for
awesome.
everyone to
It was
collapse the
really
line.
cool.
And right away, like, so there was some, I don't know if you remember this, but I feel like there were a couple of howls by the fire. One or two
Yeah,
whoops,
yeah.
whoops howls. Um,
Oh, we
weirdest
saw that
one.
funky thing. Remember, we saw that funky. The cool thing is, a lot of the folks who were on this, that wasn't
Well,
their
no,
first
before
time on.
that, first,
You know
like,
what I'm talking about? Okay.
first 20 yards. No, first 20 yards that were in there.
Well, the cough.
We all hear a cough, and it was so mundane that I didn't even think to ask about it. But Scott asked, did anybody cough? And I'm expecting you to be like, yeah, I coughed. But like, no, it wasn't you.
No,
It
it wasn't
wasn't
me.
anybody else that was with us.
Yeah.
Later, we found out that nobody, because we were close enough to the rest of the group that was sitting by the campfire, like they hadn't coughed either. So there's just this random cough
Phantom
off
cough.
to one side of us. Yeah, phantom cough. On down there, I feel like I saw a single eye shine of something, which could have been anything, right? But we did stop and take a look at that. And then now, go ahead and fill in.
Yeah. So then, to sort of give a little more color to the situation, the guys who had been on this before, some of these folks, in addition to Scott and Sheila, were seasoned, Bigfoot. I don't like to use the term hunt, so just Bigfoot expedition folks, Bigfoot Sasquatch searchers, let's say. So they had these cool ass things like on their phone with like a little camera on the front, and it turned everything like heat seeking on the, the monitor was like heat seeking, and it was like, apparently it was like a $300 add-on to your phone, and they had them on sticks. And they were awesome. They were so cool. And it's like, whoa. And they're like walking around and so at one point someone pinged on, like, I don't even know how to describe it. These two like wormy, like this kind of wormy like thing in out in the woods. And like, we all just kind of were captivated by this because we couldn't place it. It was like, certainly wasn't a snake or anything like that, but it was like it was a weird shape that was generating heat. And we were all just kind of like, what is that thing? And kind of became captivated by this weird thing.
Right. I don't think we ever got an answer for it.
No.
But that's sort of something that you expect to happen,
Yeah.
Just to get some things like that where it's like, I don't know.
Right. I mean, it certainly wasn't a Bigfoot, but it was like, what is, and that kind of like, in a way, captured sort of like, I don't know, Kutch, I left my goggles down there with you because I have a backup pair up here, but I've already worn the goggles since I got home.
Are you serious?
Yes, I've already worn them and done a scan of the backyard, like in the middle of the night, just to see, just to have fun and kind of relive the moment in a way, and also see how they work at my house. But it was like, that whole experience just kind of gave me an appreciation for like, oh, there's, I want one of those things. I want to go out in the woods in my backyard and use that thing. That was cool. It was like,
yeah,
really appreciate that. The woods.
Well, and the sensitivity of it. I mean, sorry.
Go ahead. No, he's got
the sensitivity of it. We were spotting mice, and
yeah.
Scott would go and sort of flush them out and stuff. So like, it's really great technology. And the fact that it's gotten so cheap is really cool. And yeah, I think that these, but also like the sort of like, well, what is it? Kind of underscores what we've heard about. I've heard about places like this, but also what I would say, this spot in particular is that there's just wherever there's one of these things, one of these sort of strange oddities, anomalies, you often get sort of a dog pile of strange things, right?
Yeah.
Everything from just bizarre sounds that really shouldn't be coming from a big monkey in the woods to strange things in the sky, anomalous light phenomena, like all this sort of stuff. So like the fact that like it was a weird squirmy thing in the woods, like maybe that was something that was genuinely anomalous. Who knows?
Yeah. It was certainly strange. I think that that was sort of toward the end of the second run out in the woods. Then we headed back to camp, and we all gathered around the campfire, and we were having just, really kind of, I thought, enlightening sort of chats. By then, we had really gotten to know each other, so it was sort of like we were getting deep into like Bigfoot theory and paranormal thoughts and things of that nature. And then,
well, and then
do you go ahead, Coach?
I want to do a little bit of a preface because, like,
Okay,
I had said to myself, like, I mean, I don't know, I'm incredibly grateful for the vocalizations, right? But I had said to myself that, like, if I could leave with something being thrown at me, I would be incredibly grateful and happy and think that this, by anyone's metric, this was a successful weekend, just something thrown at me. I'm like, you know what, you want to hit my head with a rock, that's fine. Like, I'll be singing Jesus's praises all the way back to the ER. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I thought that, and I thought that, and I thought that, and I thought that, and I'd kind of let go of that a little bit after the vocalizations. It's like, well, that was something, I just sort of went with that. So that's sort of the prep. That's sort of where my mindset was. And that's because I think that's important because it's going to allow us to dwell on and unpack what happened next. So,
yeah. We don't want, I feel like we've overly, so essentially,
no. Yeah.
So Cutch, I'm sitting there. Cutch is to my left. Kelly is to my right, and to Cutch's left is Sheila.
Yeah.
Right. And that, of course, there's a whole ring of people, but these are the key players.
And this is back at camp. This is not one of the sitting areas. This is
right.
Back at camp.
We're sitting around the campfire camp, and behind us is our tent, a fair distance away. And then woods on the right of it, a little sort of like channel of woods, not even like we're like a sort of not much trees or anything, and then some woods, right?
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, we're talking, and you can kind of tell it. I'll sell my version, then you tell it's pretty much the same, I think, in a way. But it's like,
yeah. I mean, I heard. Well,
I heard this like
here's another
kind of sound.
Well, and like here's another preface.
We're both so excited.
Sorry. Here's another preface.
Yes.
My house has sounded like a shooting range since about mid-August. And what I mean by that is that the acorns have been dropping fast and furious. Yeah. I'm so familiar with that sound. And what's more is they stopped about 2 weeks ago, at least. Like, and by that I mean, like, in September, it was about every 30 seconds you would hear one or two of them drop. It was nuts. Literally, it was nuts.
Yes.
But anyway, the night before, Friday night, was very windy, as we've talked about.
Yes.
I heard nothing fall or drop anywhere from anything. I'm setting all that up to say that at this moment on Saturday, it is still. And I hear from maybe my 8 o'clock on my 8 o'clock position, maybe my 7 o'clock, something hits the ground. Not heavy like a rock. Imagine if you tossed a bit of a stick that was about the size of your thumb. If you tossed it underhanded from the clearing, from where the edge of the woods was, and it had fallen into the pine straw, into the leaves. Like, that's what it sounded like. Or it sounded like a large pine cone, right? That had been sort of, again,
that's
not
how
like
you described it.
Yeah,
not
chucked.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, not chucked, but like maybe kind of underhand thrown, right? How would you describe it, Tim?
Well, it sort of was like a succession of things. First, it was sort of like, I have a hard time grasping it, and I almost don't try not to think about it because my memory, it felt like some kind of pop. So like it felt like a pop sound or something, and then the sound of something hitting the ground with, I thought, a fair amount of force. I thought like a rock had like I thought it was the rock that had gotten thrown. And now actually the one, and I don't think this was the case, but one thing that I sort of now having gotten home, that I'm like, I heard the sound, not that sound, but I heard a sound, and I'm like, oh, because I don't know if you've ever seen a rabbit when they thump, they do like a thump. They like to do a fucking hard thump. Yeah. Like, and it can be like super
oh, really?
hard.
Okay.
Like they push up on their back feet, and it's like a weird little thing. But so it was kind of like that. I don't think it was that.
Well, I mean, no, because we all turned around and we didn't.
Yes, right. There was nothing there. Anything, that was the thing. So it was like I described it as a plop because it was like that. It was like boom, and then I felt it. I felt like not like oh whatever, but it was like okay, you can kind of sense like something. You can kind of get that something hits the
Yeah.
ground. Like I heard something hitting the ground. There was no, and it sounded sizable enough that it was like I noticed it.
Yeah.
And the four of us noticed it. That was the point of saying all this thing because
Yeah, Sheila thought it was my chair doing something.
right.
When it
I
was
don't remember what Kelly
not
said
at all. I'm not
but
even
the
sure.
four of us all
Sure,
turned
yeah.
at once. That's what made it unique in a sense, or memorable, or whatever. Because it wasn't like you or me or one of us all by ourselves. All four of us heard what I called the plop, and we're like, "What the fuck was that?" And it was like it was a "What the fuck was that" situation. It was like, "What
Right.
was that?" And
Yeah.
it's like look at like Kutch was saying, we heard acorns. We heard like this was. We none of us really could get what the hell that sound was. It was like a weird, like something hit the ground. We thought maybe at that point we were like, oh shit, maybe Bigfoot or something had sort of thrown a rock or whatever. But like you went over there, and we couldn't seem to find anything.
Went over there. I did not see what could have been thrown. I mean, there was a piece of quartz, but I dropped that and it sounded a little bit too heavy. Right? It sounded a little bit too heavy to me.
Yeah.
Kelly grabbed his thermal right away. He did not see anything, which some people would say, oh, that precludes the fact that it was a Bigfoot or something. I don't even know if it was Bigfoot. All I know is that because so much of my work has been sort of drawing comparisons between those Class B sort of things and poltergeist. Like it's a poltergeist of the woods. And that sort of idea of something like kind of just like coming into being at the edge of the camp and like sort of dropping down is very kind of poltergeisty to me.
Yeah.
But it feels, I cannot separate myself from this, right?
Yeah.
It feels significant to me that I so deeply wanted that. The person who so deeply wanted that had something, the one thing that was thrown or dropped or whatever, happened behind that dude who was me.
Yeah.
It felt very much like, I've talked about the car door slam that I heard the last time I was out with them.
Right.
How that felt like it was tailored for me. Like Josh will appreciate this. No one else will, but Josh will appreciate this. It kind of felt a little bit like that. Again, I'm not even sure if the people on the other side of the campfire even know that any of this happened.
Four of us.
Yeah.
Just the four of us. Yeah. Not to sort of like jump in too much, but it's like, and I, as anyone who listens to the show knows, I'm like insanely skeptical and cynical these days. So but I can honestly say, like I can't really quite explain that. I came out of it like, okay, I experienced, like people have asked me, oh, did you see Bigfoot? It's like, no, dude, I didn't fucking see Bigfoot, but I had a moment. I had a fucking moment, and it was like, that's for someone like me who is like, I can kind of like, it takes a lot for me to really kind of be like, okay. And I was like that. I really, today, still, I'm like, I don't know what that thing was, but it was weird. It was weird. And something, that was something. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I just, so yeah, that plus the sound stuff, the housing stuff. I mean, like we're firmly in Class B sort of territory.
We're Class B people now.
And it's almost more interesting that it wasn't a rock. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I would love to have a rock that was thrown at me by Bigfoot, and I would mount that in a glass case, and there would be like a shrine on my wall, right? But it's almost more interesting that it wasn't that. That it was just like this ephemeral thing that just sort of made a sound and then just evaporated. It's really odd. It's really odd. So that's the plop. That's the plop.
That's the plop. You'll hear more about it eventually, I'm sure, as we over the course of our careers.
And it's it's interesting to me too, Tim. I don't know if I've talked to you about this. I was talking with some friends. I was talking with actually Jeff Krapel about this earlier today. That it was like, I've always made it a point when I go ghost hunting to not wear a ghost t-shirt. Or when I go looking for Bigfoot, I've always made it a point to not wear a Bigfoot t-shirt because it's too on the nose.
Yeah.
The person who wears a Bigfoot t-shirt doesn't see Bigfoot, right?
Right.
But like a lot of the folks had Bigfoot t-shirts on. Yeah. I myself, still being prepared for layers from the night before, I was wearing like literally 5 layers: undershirt, t-shirt, open flannel, and hoodie. And those 2 t-shirts were damn Bigfoot t-shirts. I was wearing this damn Bigfoot hat. You know what I mean? So I was like,
Right. You
it's
didn't realize it, really, did you? Or you
no,
just
no,
kinda...
but I'm saying it's so counter to what I've been like. I've been so because I'm superstitious about the way that the
No, that makes
phenomenon.
sense.
I'm superstitious about the way that the phenomenon presents itself to people. You know, which is why I've tried different expectations and different different sort of formulae to tease it out. Like I
Yeah,
literally
yeah.
I have a ring that I switch out. I have a ring for gigs and I have a ring for like paranormal scholar stuff and I have a ring for like just day to day. I'm
Yeah,
weird
yeah.
about that sort of thing. So I'm like, no, nothing's gonna happen to me if I'm wearing a Bigfoot shirt
Right, right. No,
looking for
exactly.
Bigfoot. And here we are. And I don't know if that has anything to do with it either, but it certainly has sort of opened me up to being like, Josh, stop taking some of the stuff so seriously, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I was, when that happened, I was hoping that more would happen after that, but nothing really. You had something later. We'll get to that in a minute. But
Yeah.
I was like, oh God, I hope this is the start of like a shower of rocks or something. Like,
I hope this is the start of Ape Canyon too. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying? Yeah.
And
yeah.
like I was saying a few moments ago too, the little annoying part is like I think you and I both will forever sort of like think about that moment and try and figure it out. And it's like it's the mind plays tricks on you, and the memory plays you know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah.
if I could just and also the frustrating part of that kind of thing is like if you knew to listen for it, we would have like have a better memory of it. But it happened, and then we were like, "What was that?" And it's like it's so elusive.
Well, and
It's really kind of maddening.
it was one of those things that I didn't even put together that it was weird until I had a double take. You know, I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
what, huh? What? You know,
Right. Right.
so that was odd. So we went to bed that night, 15 degrees warmer than the night before. It was
Yeah, it was
paradise. It
wonderful.
was paradise. It was paradise. But about 1:30, I was well aware that everybody had gone to sleep. By the way, we also heard some live fire. Well, never mind. I won't go into that. But we heard some other stuff as well. But the fire. I was talking about the fire. So the fire was still going about 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I thought that I'd heard somebody like sort of moving, shuffling through the gravel. And I was well aware that everybody was asleep. You know, there's been some other things with the fire that I'd heard, but like, I was well aware that everybody was asleep, and it sounded like somebody just sort of stepping footsteps. And I'm laying there in bed, and like, you know, you and I have literally talked, but I've said this to myself too. Like, you hear these stories about like, you know, somebody hearing something moving outside the tent, and like they don't open up the tent, you know, or something pushes on, like they're there to see Bigfoot, and something presses on the tent, and they don't open up the tent.
Right.
And
Right.
you
right,
hear that,
yeah.
and you hear that, and you're like, you weenie, like, you know, why didn't you open up the tent and shine the flashlight out? Like, that's what you're there for, right? It's a very, 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 very different situation when you are
In it.
the only person awake. Which is even odd for me to say right now, because it's like, well, there was somebody sleeping from me like what 20 feet away. Well, you know,
Yeah,
who
I
was like 5 feet away, and then another person like 20 feet away, another person like, you know, 30 feet away. Like, there are plenty of people there, right? But it is weird when you think that there's something right outside your tent. Like, my heart was thumpity, and luckily I had, like, you know, part of the window still unzipped from when we'd done the space heater the second time.
Right.
And I was able to look, and it was just the fire dying. Some of those live embers were still sort of, you know, popping a little bit, and it kind of sounded like a footstep, or, you know, the gravel being shuffled around. But it really was an interesting sort of do or die moment for me, where it's like, you know, would you really do this? And that's what I would say to people when they hear these stories, is that you really don't know how you're going to react until you're in that moment, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm proud of myself for pushing through and like sort of looking, you know, looking through it. But it definitely was less enthusiastic than I talk about it being at, you know, 1 o'clock in the afternoon when I'm talking to Tim, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to move your note about why you think it was better for you than most things like this, or that it's in the notes there. I'm going to move that down just to wrap up the chronology of this. So we wake up Sunday, oddly enough, this happened to, I think, you and I probably 3 years in a row, maybe 4, where it was like we hung out on that weekend when the clocks roll back, because we did Strange Reality several years in a row. And like we were always leading up to it, we're like, we're going to have to do some kind of magical incantation in that missing hour or whatever. And it's always like, we always wake up the next day and we're like, oh shit, the clocks went ahead.
Yeah.
It's the shit, the clocks went behind. It's oh shit, the clocks changed last night. Fuck. It's like, oh, we should, were we going to do something? So I'm saying all this because we like get up, we roll out, and suddenly like come out of the thing, and like a third of the people are already fucking gone. And this was like fucking like 9 a.m., 8 a.m. because we had to break down. So so we we break everything down, say our goodbyes to Kelly and Mike and the other folks, and Scott and Sheila. And if Jim Vujovic is listening, I presented Scott and Sheila with their commemorative patches from the mission, the team lead patches. They're in their possession now. And it was like, it just was, it was totally expected in a way. And it was kind of like impressive, but also sort of just like wild, just that like seeing just everything come swept up into like a bundle. And, in that morning, it was like, all right, let's fucking go, and much like the setup, there were some tense moments, because it's like, it's hard work. It's little details. It's sort of like, what step are we going to do next? So we were both kind of like, let's just get the fuck out of here. It was kind of that mood, but sort of a sweet, sad, oh shit, it's over. Kind of like,
that's sort of what I've sort of been going through has been sort of aftershocks of that, which is like, it's number one, it's the processing of all this. And I know that people are listening to this. They're like, okay, cool. You heard some weird noises and a pine cone fell behind you. Right. But for somebody who hasn't had that sort of, because I've had Bigfoot adjacent sort of experiences. I've told the story about the rock behind the tire of my car and, hearing some stuff at Tim Renner's Site 7. Like I've had some stuff like that, but like this was a different sort of like, I've never had vocalizations like that, and I've certainly not had anything that even sounded remotely like something thrown at me. So like I'm processing all that, and it is colder, and also like I'm coming to grips with the fact that this thing that I've looked forward to, like I've had countdown after countdown on my phone set up for, that's also over, and so it's in I probably was starting to feel a little bit sick or something and didn't realize it anyway. And just sleepy and achy and all that stuff. So, because it's one thing to walk up out of a ravine after not sleeping well the night before, but it's another thing to do that and then go to sleep again on the ground. It's a different type of achy. So just all that stuff. I was in a little bit of a daze, and anyway, we made it out of there just fine, and then came home, and I think I went to bed at like 8 because I was just
we were both like zombies. We were just complete zombies. It was crazy. The only other funny sort of part of it that I remember is like, because the clocks, we didn't realize the clocks went back till we were actually on the fucking road. And we were trying to figure out like what time, and you're like, I texted Sarah at like 8:30 in the morning. That doesn't make any sense. It's 10:30. It was like, we thought we had missing time or something. And then it was like, oh shit, we did all. So we packed all that up like at 7 o'clock in the morning or something. It was insane. And we actually like got back to Cutchin's house, like in the afternoon or something. It was crazy. So we both were like, what just happened? Like being in a like car crash or something. It was like, what did we just what was that experience? Or going up into space might be a more appropriate sort of
that's
like,
pretty good.
It's like, what just happened? We just went up into space, and now we're back here on Earth, and it's like, oh my god, this was crazy. This was really this was really wild.
And it really happened, and we really did it, and we really followed through. So
yeah, we did it, man. We went on a Bigfoot trek, and I said to Cutch, like we were kind of laughing about it on Sunday, was that like, and it increased, when Cutch was like, let's do this Bigfoot trek, like last fall, it was like, okay. And then maybe it was like 5% of my brain. And then as the year went on, it just kept going bigger and bigger and bigger. So it was like, when it was over, I think we both kind of had the memories were taking up that space. But now as the days are going by, it's settling in. And it's like I was saying to you, I'm like, I kind of can't wait to not have this occupying so much of my mind. Like I'm gonna have so much bandwidth available after this is over, but I'm not gonna be worrying about how I'm gonna fare out on this adventure because I did it. We did it. And it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of bandwidth has freed up in my brain. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's nice to sort of have a lot of that back. Yeah.
And then so then Kutch took me to the airport on Monday, and I went home, and literally like 2 days ago I was back on my couch like, holy shit, what the fuck just happened? And here I am a week later, literally almost to the hours in the air on the way to Atlanta this time last week. And here we are back already. And I want to take a moment to thank Kutch. That was like a whole other adventure that like people that, we were joking beforehand. I'm like, this is going to be like a sitcom with me and Steve coming to visit your family and stuff. And it still was. But this time I was like the lone. At times I'm like, I felt like someone you guys had taken in like for like wrap a blanket around me and give me soup or something. I'm just like, I'm an interloper on this wonderful little family. And it was so fun to watch you and Sarah and the kids and sort of like be sort of a fly on the wall to see. It was so strange in a way for me because the last time we hung out, it was like you and I were crazier than we were younger and crazier back then. Sarah was still a straight shooter, but we were young and there weren't kids involved, and we were watching goofy shit on Netflix and hanging out at your place in Roswell. And it was like, now it was like, wow, Kutch and Sarah, like, they're like real grown-ups.
They're trying to be, yeah.
They have kids, and this is so like, the kids had Halloween while we were gone, so we're hearing all about that. It was really fun and sweet and wonderful. And I can't thank you and Sarah and the kids for taking me in. I keep hearing in my mind, like, Mr. Tim. And I'm just like, your kids are awesome, man. I love them, and I really appreciate that you had me at the house on the ends of this trip.
That's real sweet, man. They're still talking about you, and they're looking forward to the next time. They're looking forward to the next time Mr. Tim comes back. So, Sarah and I were just talking about what a good house. We were just talking at dinner about what a good house guest you were. So,
thank you very much. I really tried. I was so out of my element, honestly. I was just like, all right, be on your best behavior, but all now just be on your best behavior.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
So a few takeaways. This is the last sort of bit, just we'll mention them again at the end, but also, Scott and Sheila Granger of Sasquatch Fishing Outfitters. They're not paying us for any of this. We actually paid them. So is just this is not like a paid endorsement. This is an actual endorsement. It was awesome. We had a good time. We will probably hopefully do it again, if the schedules can all work out. Sasquatch Fishing Outfitters, Scott and Sheila Granger. So you listed this. I pushed it down in the notes. You said your observations about why this went better than most things like this for me. So what are those observations?
Yeah, well, it's partially that like sort of like not taking myself so seriously thing, right? But I think it's really interesting that the activity thawed out when we thawed out. And I don't mean that like, in terms of how cold we were, but I mean that also in terms of sort of loosening up and getting to know people and just like focusing on like the human element. There's something that's stuck with me recently that I keep on talking about is that there's this really interesting passage in the Conjuring of Philip book with the Philip experiment, which is, this fictional ghost that these Toronto parapsychologists came up with a backstory for and manifested actual phenomena because they all sort of agreed on this backstory, and they actually got responses to this fictional ghost's biography that answered questions about its biography correctly, because even though they'd invented it from whole cloth. But one of the things that they noticed is like when they took things too seriously, it really tended to dampen the sort of activity that they got. And it was when they really sort of acted like with joy and just enjoying each other's company, and like sort of with almost like more of a family sort of aspect, that they saw a sort of an uptick in the activity and the sort of responses that they got. They had much better results. And so I think that that's a part of it too. I think it's something that a lot of us lose in that scenario, is that we're always so busy looking for something that, like, it should be. I guess my parting bit of advice would be that going out to look for Bigfoot should be about camping and camaraderie first and Bigfoot second.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that not only because, like, you get to have a good time regardless of whether or not you see anything odd or hear anything odd, but also because it might actually help you see or hear something odd if you sort of have that sort of more laid back approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I like I said, I hope we can do it again, because as you and I have talked about since, it's like now all the unanswered questions, like as far as the camping goes and everything, we know all that now.
Right.
We'll be so much more in the moment that that I think that we'll be, like you were saying, we'll thaw a lot earlier.
Case in point, I had never used that camping toilet before. I had never used that before. I didn't know how I was going to do with it. And there were lots of little things like that were sort of like up in the air. In addition to the schedule or the vibe or any of that stuff. So like having those questions answered, I think would be very beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. Now there were two things I had here at the end that I wanted to mention. Because on that second expedition, I suggested to you. I don't know if you thought I was like crazy. I couldn't tell what your response was, but like I think you did do it. But I had, as we were walking along, we had kind of stopped at some point, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try and like mentally connect. This sounds crazy. Like, people who aren't into this stuff, they're probably like, "You're fucking nuts, dude. You grew a beard for a year, and then you're out in the woods, and you're trying to fucking mentally connect with Bigfoot."
Right.
Yes, that's what I fucking did, folks. So I'm trying. I'm like, let's. First, I just did it myself. I'm like, and I'm kind of like trying to talk to this spirit, if it's anything like that, and be like, "Look, I'm here. If you're conscious like this, I fucking was coming here. I'm finally here, man." So, or Bigfoot. And I'm like, I'm here. The time is now. If you want to make something, if you want to show yourself in some way, I'm open to it. I would appreciate it. I'm like, I could come in peace and all that, and just kind of had sort of a one-way conversation with fucking Bigfoot, not just to sort of like call upon it in a mental state. I don't see, what's the point in like doing it, shouting it out into the ether? It's like, just do it with your mind if it's like some kind of supernatural paranormal thing. So then I turned to you and I was like, hey, you should try to do this just in case it works.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe that prompted the plop. I don't know.
Maybe that prompted the plop. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that there's, I'm not so proud that I won't do anything like that,
Right, exactly. Yeah. And the other thing was, if we maybe this could be like a preview for a future expedition.
Well, So having said all this, I think Tim and I are scheming a little bit,
Yeah. But the idea would be like, because we heard a lot of stories about people seeing these things like run across the road. So I was like, next time we should just dip out for like an hour and drive, put a dash cam on the thing and drive up and down these like backcountry roads, at like fucking midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and see if it flushes something out, see if it flushes a Bigfoot out. Because it's
or honestly, I mean, I know it sounds really cheesy, but like,
cool if I saw a bear.
Still, exactly. Still be neat to see a bear, or the thing that you're not expecting to see,
Right,
a dog man or a ghost. Yeah, exactly.
You're a fucking clown on the side of the road at 1 a.m. in like in the middle of nowhere, Georgia. Yeah, it's like, what the fuck was that? And you got it on your track. So it's like, I think because part of me was like, as sort of, I said this to you, like I came out of this, I think, more believing that Bigfoot is some kind of paranormal thing that manifests into the physical realm from time to time, because I was like, I'm not. I mean, this is expansive forest, but I don't know. I had a little hard to fathom that this thing could be that, like a creature like that big in a physical sense as a pure animal could be existing out
Well,
there. I don't know. I found myself more flummoxed about it.
it's one of those things where, as I alluded to earlier, Scott and Sheila have spent a lot of time out there,
Yeah.
and they will talk to you. They'll be pretty open about their assumptions at the start of this journey and where they are now. And they're acknowledging a lot of, they're like, yeah, there's something fundamentally
Weird about it.
weird and fundamentally challenging, right? About
Right.
it.
Right. Yeah.
And again, I don't want to be super negative about this, but like, how many cryptozoologists are spending this much time out in the,
Right.
in
Yeah.
the field? I mean, they're both, retired, even though this is sort of a secondary job, a new career for them. But like, they have the time to spend out there, and they're going to these places, and they're being really intentional about it. And like, so when somebody's spending that much time in the field and is like, yeah, we've got to acknowledge the lights, and yeah, we've got to acknowledge the strange sounds, and yeah, we've got to acknowledge all this other stuff. And again, not even saying like, oh, they're the Carflaxian Confederation coming through the portals to, and not like building a belief system around it, but being like, we have to acknowledge this stuff. We have to ask questions about this stuff. We have to be open to this stuff because, I've seen it. They've seen it. We all have experiences that really challenge the orthodox party line about what Bigfoot is. And I think that says a lot when somebody's spending that much time in the field and they're coming away with that.
Yeah.
And to that extent, a lot of the folks that we were around, were very open-minded about what Bigfoot is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the Bigfoot expedition, folks. I'll briefly open it up for any questions in the chat, but I don't even know how long I'll entertain that foolishness. But if anyone has a pressing question in the chat, you got like maybe 5 minutes. But that was the thing. Would we do it again? I would say yes. I would, if Scott and Sheila will have me, I will definitely do it again, some point in the future if I can. I would recommend anyone do it. If you could do it with Squawk Fishing Outfitters, that'd be awesome. But do it with any other place in a sense, because or do it yourself and go out there into the woods. Just get out there. That's kind of what I was saying before all this went down. It was like, I've talked about Bigfoot for like 20 plus years, but it's like I've never actually made an effort to go look for Bigfoot. So it's like, now I have. Now I can say, well, I've actually looked for Bigfoot, and I had a weird thing happen. So it's get off your chairs and get out there, folks. And Scott and Sheila Granger of Sasquatch Fishing Outfitters, they were awesome. So
Yeah.
they'll get you through it. That's for sure. Awesome folks.
Yeah, like I said, I'm jonesing to get back, in some capacity at some point.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm gonna let my body recover first. Yeah, I'm gonna let my body and my relationships recover a little bit first.
What does that mean?
No, it just means like it just means like I feel like I've been absent from my family for about a week. Even though I got back on Sunday, like I've just been kind of zombified. In a lot of ways,
like we were saying, all that bandwidth. Trying to think if there's anything else we want to mention. No questions in the chat, thankfully. So I was afraid we were going to get some ridiculous roasting type questions. Steve Berg's in there, so he says, "Beautiful fellas, I was with you in spirit." Yes, you were, Steve.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, you certainly were. Many times we were like, "Oh, I wish Steve were here." Steve would. Steve, because especially Steve, we needed you on Saturday morning when we were like, "Oh, Jesus Christ!"
I mean, honest, not lying. Like just having Steve's body in the tent would have been really warm.
Yeah,
so.
That's a space heater in and of itself. That would have been.
And Steve, Steve, I said this earlier, but you were asking how the food was. Sheila's cheese grits are probably the best grits I've ever had.
Yeah, you probably would have lost your mind. So you have to come down just for the grits.
Yeah.
But the food was fantastic. The food was really good. And I think I can show it on here just briefly. That's the last thing that might be worth mentioning just for fun. Yeah, this was like, yeah. So in case anyone thinks we were totally like, actually in the real shit, it's like we did have a Sasquatch charcuterie board. So, I don't know. I don't know what that says about our bona fides, but there was, as part of the potluck, this really incredible Sasquatch charcuterie board that I was like, where'd you even come up with that? So
Yeah.
it was cool as hell. Yeah. So let me see.
Mike. Yeah, I don't know. Mike's asking how you and him are clone images of one another personality wise.
We were. Mike and I were very similar. Mike and Jesus. Mike and Kelly. Sorry, Kelly. It's been a long fucking week. Mike and Kelly sort of, they really they added the sort of extra element because we knew Kelly from before. Kelly's been on Binnall of America, so it was like, oh, okay, I know this Kelly, and then Mike quickly became like one of the gang. So we did sort of have a little mini gang out there, which always helps in that kind of situation. And they were hugely helpful. They did stuff. I mean, let's just tell them. Kelly. I even made the joke. Kelly dug the poop hole because you poop in the toilet. You got to throw the bag in a hole later and then bury it. Kelly dug the poop hole for us like he was trying to get a job at a poop hole digging company. That's how he was, just professional. And by the time he's done, I'm like, you're hired. And then he went and dug a second one. Of course, that's because they wanted to use the portable toilet.
Yeah,
too.
I mean,
They could have. They didn't have to dig the holes, but that's how helpful they were. They really ingratiated. Came together here as a foursome there of good on the trip. So, and I like you were saying, I'd like to shout out a whole bunch of other folks, but who knows who wants to be, who wants to be affiliated with this crazy ass fucking foolishness. So, but all the folks, if you're watching, all the folks from the hunt, I loved you. You were awesome. It was so great to hang out with you, and I hope that if we do another one with Scott and Sheila, that our paths cross again, because that would be so much fun to see each other and catch up. So, yeah.
Well, thank you again, Tim, for making this happen, because this is, again, I can't tell you how many times like you read about stuff like this, and it's like, well, could I ever really get somebody to do this with me? And yeah. So, and now you've broken the seal, and now I know now I feel confident camping. So, like, I'm probably going to be back up there, before you come with me. So, there you have it.
Probably, I wouldn't be surprised. And well, you don't have to thank me, dude. Thank you. This was your idea. You got to backdate it even further than the one when you first started talking, because it was at Strange Realities last year where you first broached the subject of this. And it's like a lot of,
that's right.
Yeah. A lot of crazy and misguided ideas get hashed at these events. So it was like, sure, Cutch, sure. Oh, I'd be down for a Bigfoot hunt. Because in that moment, you're all together and you want to keep the fucking party going.
And then you get home and you're like, I don't know if this is going to happen. Yeah.
Right. And then you got in touch around the holidays, and it was like, well, if you do the legwork and figure this out, you just tell me when I need to get to Georgia and I'll do it.
Yep.
And Steve was the same way. God bless him. So, and then it happened. And so that's all you, dude. This was a Joshua Cutchin production, man. And so thank you. Because look at, man, I'm kind of we already kind of went over this, but like, I'm a homebody. I don't want to, it took a lot, but I'm like, you know what? This could be a once in a lifetime experience with my good buddy Cutch. Right. And a lifetime, and it did turn out that way, a lifetime of unforgettable memories that, you and I will share, that we'll laugh about like forever. And,
yeah, I mean, I'm not forgetting this anytime soon. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be old men. And we'll be bringing up moments from this weekend. And so I cherish that so much. Yeah. You just can't put a price on that.
We'll be old men, and we'll still be saying things like, I've just about had enough of this fucking misadventure.
Exactly. I said next time we hang out, I'll bust that out at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's great.
Perfect. All right. Well, with that said, Cutch, what do you want to plug? Anything? Fourth Wall Phantoms is still out there. If folks want to get that.
Yeah, I mean,
the year's winding down.
Yeah, I'm really excited to say that there are probably around the order of. Well, I've got some events coming up next year that I'm really excited to be a part of, but like I kind of want to wait until I don't want to be the first person to announce them. You know how that goes.
Right.
So but that'll be you should be seeing more information about that in the coming year, and I'm really excited about that. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, same old shit from your buddy Binnall, folks. We'll be back next week. I never do this because the show's I'm just weird and have OCD, and I just do the show the same way every episode. So, but I never do this. So, if you're listening now, obviously you're listening now. Like, subscribe, all that shit you're supposed to do on the YouTube, and put a good review on iTunes or something. People say that all the time. It's like, fuck off. Like, why? I don't want to do any. Like, I don't want to do work for you. So, right. But on this rare occasion, I will ask you all to write a positive review on iTunes and give us a thumbs up on Jing Jang and fucking give us a twinkle over on Papuki and all that good stuff. If you could do that, I'd be very, very appreciative. And next week, Gian Cassar is going to be on talking about the Zodiac Killer. So what a life I lead. And all that said, thank you, Cutch, for everything. I love you, brother. And thank you to everyone listening, and good night.
Good night.